today we're going to start with the second romantic poet, Percy Bysshe Shelley. Basically, he was born in 1792, died in 1822. And so, what do you think about his life? Did he die old? Did he die mid-life? Did he die young? 1792? 1822. So yes, he actually kind of lived a short life in comparison to a lot of other romantic poets. Percy Bysshe Shelley. He lived a short life. He's 29 years. He actually died a little bit before his 30th birthday. He's considered a second-generation romantic poet, as opposed to Wordsworth, who's considered a first-generation romantic poet, since we've already been introduced to Wordsworth. Wordsworth, and characterizes actually second-generation romantic poets that they lived short lives. So think about it. Wordsworth is a first-generation romantic poet. I told you guys he lived a long life. You guys remember how many years? He lived till he was almost 80 years old. Okay? He was born in 1770, died in 1850. That's 80 years old, right? And Shelley actually lived a very short life, where he was born in 1792 and died in 1852. That was basically years. Shelley actually, what we're going to be looking at in this chapter is the way Shelley's life was edited by his wife, Miss Shelley. She's basically Mary Shelley, and she was a very famous writer during the time period. And she actually wrote Frankenstein. Did you guys ever hear of that novel? So she was a novelist, Mary Shelley. She's his second wife too. So basically, the idea is that she edited his work, and she created kind of like an identity for Shelley, and represented Shelley's poetry and life in a specific way. And then we're going to look at also the actual, real, radical kind of Shelley. So we're going to look at two types of identities. One identity and one representation of Shelley that was kind of edited and marketed almost by his wife, and then another that actually kind of reflects the more radical personality of Shelley. That actually during his lifetime he was not in favor because of that kind of character. Before we start, and in order that you get kind of that representation of how Shelley was basically perceived during his lifetime, I'd ask you to kind of go back to your book and look at page 5. Remember that page that has the gravestones of like several romantic poets? On the upper part of the page, there's William Wordsworth's gravestone in the graveyard where his family were buried. And then if you look down to the right, is it? To the right, right? That first one actually is the gravestone of Shelley. And on it is actually engraved lines from Shakespeare's poem, or basically poem in play in verse, The Tempest. And just because it's not very clear, we're going to look at the full lines at the beginning of our chapter, page 39. This actually kind of lines kind of reflect a specific representation of a specific image of Shelley. That was basically edited by his wife later, after his death. And so let's look at it, and from these lines, I want you to kind of come up with a description of Shelley, according to these lines. I'll read them. Are you all there on page 39? Full freedom 5, thy father lies, on his bones are carols made. Those are pearls that were his eyes, nothing of him that doth fade, but doth suffer a sea change into something rich and strange. Sea nymphs hourly winged his knell, ding dong heart, now I hear them ding dong bell. And so these were the words that were imprinted on his gravestone. And from the description over here, what does this description reflect in terms of the character of the person described here? And then it will tell us a little bit of how Shelley's character was perceived right after his death, and how it was publicly marketed, kind of. When you look at the second line of his bones are peril made. What is that? Whose bones are made of peril? Regular, normal human beings? Normal mortals? Peril. Do you guys know what perils are? Murjan? Yeah. So his bones are made of peril. And then those are pearls that were his eyes. Eyes of pearl. Bones of peril. And then they've seen them, which is like a mythical, basically creature, not a real actual creature. And so from these lines, and then there's something that he transforms into, that nymph transforms into something that is rich and strange. And so to have these lines, from Tempest, with basically printed on his gravestone, may say something about him and the way people wanted his character to look like and be perceived. So what is it saying about his character? There's something strange and mysterious about his character. He's not just like normal and regular other human beings. A person whose bones are pearls and eyes are pearls makes him what? More what? More what? There's a mystery about his character, and he's more what? It's strange, let's say. He's not just like other mortals. It's like a person who's elevated more than other normal mortal human beings. Because we're talking about precious stones, right? Precious and rare stones. So it makes him unique. So he's unique, he's strange, there's something strange about his character and mysterious. And then you cannot kind of describe exactly who this person is. And so there's something about his identity that's elusive, fluid. You can't define it in a very solid, strict manner. Okay? And so yes, Shelley actually has some of these, some of this description actually works to reflect his character as edited by his wife. And so you're going to look at this character actually now in the next couple of pages, where actually he is more mysterious. There's something mysterious about his character. There's something strange. You cannot kind of define his identity. His identity is fluid, elusive, changing. And then you feel like he's not even rooted in our normal, regular kind of earth. He's more of an elevated kind of creature, as opposed to other mortals. And he did that actually, if you look at the activity 1 in your book on page 41, there is a description of Shelley by a critic called John Bailey. And if we read this description, you're going to get more of a solid kind of view of this part of Shelley's identity. And so, can you guys look at activity 1? Okay, I'm going to read that part where basically John Bailey describes Shelley. And then you tell me what's the difference between Shelley and like normal other people, or how is Shelley's identity being described. Okay, so the gulf between us and Shelley lies in the fact that we are of the earth, and he is airy of the air. His landscape is not our well-loved trees and flowers, not so much even our worshipped sea and his mountains. It is the night and day, dark and dawn, winds and clouds, and the movement of elemental air, the stars and their courses, the sun and the moon, not as givers of earthly life, but as circling worlds immeasurably distant, solitary, and aloof. And so from this description, how can you characterize Shelley? He's different from anyone else in the meeting. The difference between us and us is like us normal people and Shelley. What is that difference basically? He's elevated beyond like us, the earthy people. He's airy air. you know? And then if you rooted in a specific place, he's described as kind of rootless, right? And rootless in a way because he's like airy air, fluid in nature, you know? And the subject matter of his poetry. It's not the regular flowers, mountains, valleys, just like Wordsworth. Wordsworth was a poet of the landscape, and not any general landscape, a specific landscape, and that's Lake District landscape. And so, basically Wordsworth is rooted in a specific place, and you can never understand his poetry unless you know the way he related to the landscape of Lake District. He was rooted, he was local. Opposed to that, Shelley actually does not, he's a nature poet. He's a romantic poet, and you know that romantic poets basically address nature. But he's not the person who addresses local nature. He addresses more of forces in the universe, natural elements in the universe. So instead of addressing the flowers, the daffodils, and then being the source of his poetic inspiration and genius, like the back for Wordsworth, instead of that, what triggers him and what triggers his poetic imagination basically is the natural elements in the universe. It could be the west wind, and that's where we're reading a poem on the west wind. It could be the stars and their courses and the way they work in the cosmos. You know? So it's the cosmos that he's concerned with. He's more concerned with, as I said, natural elements, not tangible nature grounded, on Earth. Yes, it could be the universe, the cosmos, or forces in the cosmos, like the air, the wind, the storm, the lightning, those powerful natural elements in the universe. Okay? So those actually are addressed in his poetry, and those could be sources of his poetic genius and imagination. Whereas Wordsworth, like the daffodils and the magnificent scene of daffodils would be his source of poetic imagination and genius. So see, Shelley's more ruthless, more airy air, describing natural elements in the universe. Okay? He's not local, he's not rooted, he's ruthless. And that reflects actually the fact that Shelley lived for the majority of his life in exile. So he's an exile, basically, poet, and that's like a specific local placement in his poetry, except that he's concerned with what is happening back home while he's living in exile, back in London. He's concerned with that, and that's where we're going to look at his kind of other characters. So we agree that basically this is, and this actually presents Shelley as a detached. Even though this paragraph ends with saying he's distant, solitary, aloof, he's detached, he's away from everybody else, from almost, the earth. And think about this character, this personality that's described here. Would you think that Shelley is revolutionary? Is there any reflection that Shelley's a revolutionary in his life? He's radical. He's anti, for example, government. He's revolutionary. His poems have political and historical and social messages. Do you feel that in this description? No, it's kind of absent. Even though in his lifetime he was a radical revolutionary. So we start off with this basically to reflect that, and your book puts this under actually a subtitle of A Life Edited by Miss Shelley. And so this is the kind of identity that his wife actually wanted to have, that edited his life according to this identity, and this is the perception she wanted the people to go off with in terms of identity. Why? I'll tell you a little bit of biographical information. Well, before that, if you turn the page, you look at an image of Shelley. And so, look at that image. The image is it's a painting by Edwin Bierhaus. It's a portrait of Percy Bysshe Shelley, and it was drawn, or it was painted in 1820. And does this reflect kind of that identity, so different than other mortal human beings? Kind of a person who's more elevated than others, the eyes of curls, the bones of Carol, perfect, different than others. Or does it kind of show you like a very strong, radical, kind of character. But you guys read the chapter? He's kind of portrayed as, beautiful, perfect, you might say he's not. I think it's feminized, actually. but basically, this picture kind of uses that description of Shelley, and it presents him in compliance with, basically, the view his wife wanted to create, and when she actually gathered his poems and basically published them in a book. The idea is that Shelley, as I told you guys, died 29. A lot of his works were not published before his death. His wife gathers his works, not the radical ones, the ones that are kind of addressing natural, the natural, force of the universe. And she kind of writes an introduction or a preface to the whole book of poetry and to the collection. And then before every poem, she writes kind of like a brief where she introduces kind of the biographical details of the poem. And then she markets her husband, or she portrays her husband in a way that he is the airy, perfect kind of creature that's elevated than other people, and that's ruthless, disconnected kind of from, the grounded earth, and it just is like in contemplation and who addresses and lives in contemplation of the natural, cosmos and universe and the forces in it. And why does she create that image? Is it reflective of the actual real Shelley? No. The actual real Shelley actually was a poet that was not favorable. Nobody liked him during his lifetime. Not nobody. Well, basically right-wing people. He's actually a son of an aristocratic man. His dad is Sir Thomas E. Shelley. His dad actually disowned him during his lifetime. His dad did not want to even hear his name. Why? Because Shelley was a radical poet who rose he was anti-establishment, both government-wise and anti-church teachings and anti the religion. So basically, he had a radical views that were very dangerous for a conservative society of the time. And not only that, for his radical views, his works were not allowed to be published publicly. They were not allowed to be read. And so, basically, his works survived because, the underground radical people would circulate his poetry, and they would circulate them on pieces of paper. But there's no publishing house that actually published his poetry. Not because they didn't want to. It was not allowed by the government. All his works were being censored, were being suppressed, and he had to live in exile for the majority of his life. But then, not only that, even if a publishing house ever published any of his works, the publisher would be persecuted. And actually, there is an actual case of that where his poem Queen Mab was published, basically by William Clark in 1821. William Clark is the publisher, and basically he was persecuted by the government for publishing his work. And so see how Shelley was considered kind of that dangerous personality, dangerous character during his lifetime? He was radical, very radical, outspoken, vocal, and because he believed that in poetry you should have a message. A poet should spread ideas and stop his message, and his messages should be spread to the public, and the public should actually be charged by them and consequently react to them. Okay? Anyhow, so from the description, the first description we read, does it look like? It doesn't reflect any of this his actual real radical identity and character. So, why would Miss Mary Shelley do that? Why would Mary Shelley do that? Think about it. Why, after his death, she would actually publish his work, however, tone down that radical character, or even kind of like misrepresent him, or represent him in a way that's disconnected from the actual radical. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. Because I told you, neglecting that radical element in his poetry. And then after she was getting her allowance from who? She's now a widow. She was getting her allowance from her father-in-law, Sir Timothy Shelley. And so to even have him actually sponsor, provide and sponsor this work, she would have to be convinced. Shelley, even his dad, didn't want to even hear his name. So now how does he sponsor her financially to get this published? As I said, it's actually because she kind of disconnects that she portrays Chilean from the real radical one. And so the father is not exactly actually support this work. And so that's how it goes. And so I told you, did I tell you guys how Shelley died? Shelley basically died when he traveled from a country to another city, and he drowned. He basically was traveling or moving from one town to another, and he gets drowned. And him and two other people on the boat are found on the shore and the next day. And so there's a lot of conspiracy about how he died. Now, thinking about knowing the radical Shelley, there's a conspiracy where maybe the government actually sent somebody to kill him. And then there's other stories circulating that maybe the father, maybe somebody, you know? This is a radical man that, it would have served the government actually to have him disappear. And that's why he dies very young. It's not a disease, it's just an accident that happened while he's on a boat trip. And he drowned. Okay, so now you get the idea that we have kind of two identities out there. The identity where Shelley's kind of very aloof, in solidarity, that exists under the natural elements of the universe and the cosmos, basically was one that was killed and one that was against by the Victorians. Because the Victorian era was a conservative era. So that kind of, he influenced a lot of Victorian writers, but it was that character that influenced the Victorian writers. So in the modern era, what the part of his character or writings becomes more popular and go out and are out there and published, it's basically the radical anti-establishment Shelley. So he's hailed basically by the modern, during the modern period and the contemporary period. Okay? So keep these two images in mind, two ways of looking at Shelley in mind, because now when we look at his poetry, we're going to be looking at both identities. The first couple of poems, or the first poem and the second kind of reflect that Shelley-airy air, but not necessarily maybe. After you read, I want you guys to tell me if it's really that poem that describes the solitary poet who's just, connected with the natural cosmos and not concerned with actual real issues. Because his poetry might have these messages. I just want you guys to come up with these conclusions after we read them. We're going to start with 2 East Skylark, and then we're going to continue go the next two Ode to the West Wind, and then we're going to look at 2 other poems that are, in your book labeled under the radical, Shelley, and that's The Mask of Anarchy. We're just going to look at several lines of it, and we're going to look at England 1819 in poetry. Okay? And that's going to be just like real, radical anti-monarchy, anti-establishment Shelley. Okay? So, we're going to start with the very first poem, 2 East Skylark, and it's in your book. It's actually put under the title A Life of the Imagination. And now you guys know where the whole poem is printed from. On part 1 of the reading in your same book, and so that would be page 197. So can I have you all flip to page 197? Now these poems, you were supposed to read them at home. Of course, just like any other tutorial, you're supposed to come prepared actually to class. So I'm not sure how many of you guys read the poem already at home. What? Okay, well, what we'll do is that it's going to be impossible that we read people at home, in full together. For this poem, I'll be reading several stanzas from the beginning of it, and then we're going to address what those stanzas do, and how it introduces us to the subject matter. And then we'll look at some stanzas in between, talk about what Shelley does with that, and then we'll look in details at like the last stanza or two in the same poem. Same thing with To the West Wind, I'll do the same. We're just going to look at like a part, a canto at the beginning and a canto at the end. Okay? Okay. So, the poem. Before I start with the poem itself, and before talking about, content or form, you just have to know the background of the poem. Actually, this poem was published it's published basically in his book, The Major Works, and this is the one that was edited by, basically, his wife, right? Mary Shelley took introductions to all these poems. And so the introduction to this poem is that she says that it registers an incident that happened basically in July 7th. And what happened in July 7th? She was walking with her husband, Miss Mary Shelley, and Percy Shelley. They were walking one evening, it was summer basically, on the side of a lake in the town Pisa in Italy. Okay? He lived the majority of his life in Italy. And she says that as they were walking, Shelley noticed actually a skylark, this kind of bird. And she says that it caught his attention, that he looked at it, and what caught their attention basically was the carols and the singing of the skylark. It was a beautiful song and beautiful carol that attracted them. And so it wasn't just only the singing, but rather also the skylark itself and the manner in which it actually flew up in the sky and went higher and higher and kind of disappeared behind the cloud. And even after it disappeared, she says that they continued to hear the melody and the song that the skylark was singing. And so basically this poem is based on that incident. And we're talking July 7th. But keep in mind, July 9th. Percy Shelley received the news of the death of his daughter. It's his daughter, not Mary Shelley's daughter. And your book actually kind of gives you different theories of like, if she was really his actual biological daughter or if she was an adopted daughter. So you can look at the stories. But the idea is that 2 days after this initial incident, he received the news of his daughter's death. And so, later on, I want you to tell me if you see the influence of that in the poem. Okay? Now, let's look at this in terms of form before we look at the content. In terms of form, can you describe these lines to me? Look at the poem. Look for the first page, second page, third page. You can see what? You can see that there are parts that we call stanzas, right? And if you count them all in all, there are 21 stanzas. So the poem consists of 21 stanzas. And look at each stanza. How many lines are there in each stanza? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stop. And then if you count through each and every stanza, you're going to find the same 5 lines, 5 lines, 5 lines. Right? And so the idea is that basically each stanza consists of like a compact 4 lines and then a longer line. And same thing goes with the rest of the poem. So basically the poem consists of 21 stanzas, 5 lines each, and now it's written basically in the short lines basically are trochaic trimeter. Remember we took the iambic pentameter? And what is the iambic pentameter? The iambic means, remember when I told you guys that each sentence has a fourth or a unit, or several feet, and each fourth starts with an unstressed syllable and is followed by a stressed syllable. And the number of these units actually decides whether if there are 5, we call them a pentameter. So it's iambic because it's unstressed followed by a stressed unit. Several of those which are 5 make iambic pentameter. But this poem is actually trochaic trimeter. Trochaic actually, in terms of foot, we have a reversal of the stress in the syllables. Where regularly the iambic would start with the unstressed, no, in the trochaic, the start or the beginning would be a stressed syllable, followed by an unstressed syllable, and so on. And then the units are only three. Can you see they're very short, compact sentences? So it consists of 3 units, and so it's basically a try means to try means 3, right? But then we have the longer line over there, and the longer line actually is written in iambic hexameter. And so basically iambic because there's a return to the regular order of the first starting with an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. Hexameter because it's 10 all in all. Okay? Units. And so why is that play on the regular order of language? Remember when I said that when the sentence starts with an unstressed and stressed, that's a reflection of the everyday language, right? It's smooth. And so here we have that reversal. And because actually Shelley wants his language to reflect the subject matter that he's discussing. In the poem, he's talking about a skylark. And he describes the skylark as something out of ordinary, beyond ordinary, and thus he makes his language out of ordinary, beyond ordinary, kind of different than the everyday language. So you see, the idea is that the language reflects the subject matter. And now let's see how he basically addresses this skylark and how the skylark is in a way that's beyond ordinary. Right? I'm going to read stanza 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? I have to do this because I want you guys to get a feel of the poem itself. And then while I read it, I want you guys to tell me what is the manner, how does Shelley describe this skylark? Why does he address it in this specific way? How does he describe the singing and the melody of the skylark? And how does he describe basically the manner in which it's flying? Okay? And how is the skylark beyond ordinary? Okay? Okay, I'm going to start. Hail to thee, bright spirit, bird thou never word, that from heaven or nearest forest thy so high, in profuse strains of unpremeditated art. Higher, still and higher from the earth thou springest, like a cloud of fire. The blue deep thou wingest, and singing still dost soar, and forever singest. In the golden lightning of the sunken sun, over which clouds are brightening, thou dost float and run, like an undying joy, whose race is just begun. The pale purple even smells around thy flight, like the star of heaven in the broad daylight. Thou art unseen, but yet I hear thy shrill delight. Keen as are the arrows of that silver spear, whose intense line narrows in the white dawn clear, until we hardly see, we feel that it is there. Hold the earth and air with thy voices loud, as the night is bare, from one lonely cloud, the moon rains out her beauty, and heaven is overflowed. What thou art we know not, what is most like thee? From rainbow clouds there flow not, drops so bright to see, as from thy presence showers a rain of melody. And so, what is the description of the skylark, and how is the skylark different? And what is the manner of this? How does Shelley perceive this skylark, the singing of the skylark? Yeah, it's from heaven, not from earth, so it's more heavenly than earthly, you know? Yes, let's start with the very first sentence. Hail to thee, bright spirit. Do we tell regular people, hail to thee? Do we address them that way? We say, hail to the king, and then hail to the skylark. So what is he doing here? He's directly addressing the skylark, and thus it's an ode, and we're going to talk about the ode in a little bit. But he directly addresses it in an elevated manner, in a very highly respectful manner. It's the way, kings are addressed. So the skylark from the start, Shelley addresses it in an elevated manner and gives it a majestic kind of address, right? And then he says light spirit. And so it's more spirit than object. Right? And as he said, he says that it comes from heaven. Right? And so, and what else? Give me other clues that this bird is just like different than every other bird and almost different from any other object. And so yes, he describes the manner in which he perceives the bird, and then he describes it flying higher and higher and soaring high till actually what happens, it disappears, right? He says, what? In the broad daylight thou art unseen, but yet I hear thy shrill delight. So it kind of disappears behind the clouds if you look through, all those lines. And then what happens? After it disappears, yes, Shelley says that he still can hear its delightful singing. Okay? And so that reflects how powerful music, strong and loud. And then how does he continue also to describe it? He says, all the earth and air with thy voice is loud. As the night is bare from one lonely cloud, the moon rains out her beams, and heaven is overflowed. So the idea is that he's saying that the presence of the skylark is so powerful, the singing of the skylark is as powerful, and it's so beautiful and joyous, and it just even, it goes through the clouds and still we can hear that sound of it. And then that poet actually says what? What thou art we know not. He's addressing the skylark and he's saying that we actually do not know what you are, the source that you come from. Since it's kind of like more spiritual that emanates from heaven, there's something mysterious, something not known about that skylark. And now in the next couple of stanzas, I'm not going to read the story, but in the next couple of stanzas, Shelley starts comparing the skylark to things or objects in the universe. And so, let's see, does he find that anything in the universe matches the skylark or not? Let's see, what does he compare it to? He's using a simile when he says, come on, go directly after where I stopped with my reading, lines 35. The first stanza says, like the poet. So he's 198. I'm just continuing what I'm doing. Okay. So 198, he says, like the poet did. So he's comparing the skylark like a poet. And if you read, through that stanza, it's like a poet who actually sings hymns. And so it's like a poet who's hidden and composes beautiful songs. Hymns are like, poetry is but it's meant to be sung, and so it's beautiful. And so he compares the skylark to this hidden poet. But he says that basically the bird exceeds, that description. It's better than that. And then he goes on and says like what? Look at the first line of each stanza. Like the high-born maiden, right? In a palace tower. So that maiden that's in a palace, she's isolated, alone, where all the suitors want to, so basically, maybe, they want to, they're suitors, they want to attract her, they want to reach her, and she's unreachable. So this skylark is like that beautiful maiden isolated and nobody can, have and reach. And then, the next stanza, he compares the skylark to us. Like the glowworm golden in a dart of dew. And so he's comparing this also to this beautiful worm that glows. I've never seen a glowworm. I've seen a glowbug. I've seen a firefly. I've never seen a glowworm. Did you ever happen to see a glowworm? So apparently it's something very beautiful in nature that, it spreads some light. And so it's beautiful to the extent that Shelley compares the skylark to the glowworm. Right? However, what happens? And then, he still doesn't come up with a conclusion here. And so, the next stanza, like what? Like a rose embowered, right? And then he says, so the sense is gifts and da-da-da. So basically he compares it also to a rose that diffuses beautiful scent upon the universe. And so Shelley goes on, comparing the skylark that's more, spiritual life that comes from heaven. So perfect, so beautiful, with heavenly music and melody. He compares it to objects in, earthly objects. And then he reaches a point where he says that. And then the next one he also compares it to the sound of, the vernal rain. The rain when it falls and trickles on the grass and the leaves and, that beautiful sound. He compares also the skylark to this. And then he says what? He says, joyous and clear are fresh by music God surpass. He's saying, I compare you to all these objects and eventually to the sound of that beautiful, rain that trickles on the grass. However, your joyousness, your fresh, attitude, and your music surpasses anything that exists in the earth. And so basically, the beauty of the skylark, the happiness and the joy that it expresses surpasses anything that you want to compare it to in the world. And directly he says, I want to read this one. This stands about Hollywood, line 65. Peace us, bright bird or bird. What sweet thoughts are thine? I have never heard. Praise of love or wine that canteth forth the flood of rapture. So divine. And so he's so directly addressing the skylark and actually imploring the skylark to teach us, him, the poet, us, people, something. And what is that? What sweet thoughts are thine? The sweetness of the sky. It's happy and joyous, basically, feelings and songs. And so he says that basically the skylark, the way it expresses its singing, the happiness that it expresses more divine. It's far beyond anything beautiful on earth. And then he continues to now it's almost the rest of the stanzas now are going to be kind of a comparison between what the skylark is and what it represents, and then human mortal beings, then the poet himself, and the effect of the skylark upon the poet himself. And so I want you to look at basically stanza 170. It says I don't have the number, but it's like from line 70 to 75, where it says, what objects are the fountains of thy happy spring? What fields or waves or mountains? What shape of sky or plain? What love of thine own kind? What ignorance of pain? See all these questions? He's actually asking these skylarks to teach. And then he's saying, teach us what? But where is the fountain, the source of your happiness, the source of the joy and happiness that you express in your melodies? Apparently he wants to learn something from the skylark, learn how to be as happy, learn how to be as joyous, learn how to even express love. You say, what's love of God and kind, what's ignorance of pain? And eventually he brings it up. That keyword, what's ignorance of pain. Skylark exists. And apparently it looks like it's heavenly more than, and it lives in ignorance of pain. Whereas the poet and us and all, human beings live and don't live in ignorance of pain. We are able to love, just like the skylark. The skylark expresses love, but we are able to love. We are able to express happiness. We are able to express joy. However, that is not in disconnect from pain. However, the skylark lives oblivious to pain. It does not have pain as opposed to us. And thus, if you think about it, human beings, the poet himself, can never be happy, can never love that unmeasurable love and live that unmeasurable joy and happiness. Because we live, actually for mortals who live, we live the duality. Happiness, joy, and suffering, and pain. For a specific reason. And what is that? What is that? Okay, let's just read a little bit further. Look at line 80 to 85. Waking or sleeping when he says, oh wait, even before that, 78 to 85 in the with the clear seeing joyous, languor cannot be, shadow and annoyance never came near thee. Thou lovest, but never knew love's sad satiety. Waking or asleep, that though of death must seem things more true and deep than the mortal dream. Or how could thou thy note flow in such a crystal dream? And so basically he's saying here what? What is he saying? He's actually praising the skylark for the fact that it lives in ignorance of pain, and it cannot actually be, it's joyous, it's happy, it's not affected by annoyance, by pain, by suffering, and it can love and express love without feeling sad, the sad satiety of love. Whereas as human beings, we feel that. We live the duality. Love, happiness, joy, pain, suffering, because we are mortal. And what characterizes mortal? Here, what characterizes mortal? Girls. Come on, mortal. Human and human beings. Mortals die. We are aware of death. And thus we can never express the unmeasurable happiness that is described. We do live happiness, we do live love, we do live joy. However, we are aware that it's not everlasting and there is an end to it. And thus, we can never match the skylark in the expression of love, expression of happiness, expression of joy. You got it? Because we're mortal. We die. And the thought of death limits our expression of happiness, or limits actually feelings of happiness. Right? Right? Do you guys agree? Disagree with that? Yeah. But the skylark lives in oblivion to pain. Ignorance. Right? Skylark. It's called the skylark. Yeah. So the skylark lives in ignorance of that pain, ignorance of suffering, and ignorance of death. It lives in oblivion to that feeling, that actual reality. However, human beings and mortals live the duality. They're aware that there is limitation to happiness, limitation to joy, limitation to love, because we die. Okay? And then that's what leads us to kind of the last two standards, where let's look at the last two standards. The first one says, better than all measures of delightful sound. So he reaches the conclusion that basically the skylark is better than all measures of delightful sound in terms of singing. Better than all treasures that in books are found. Thy skill, O poet, for thou scorner of the ground. Teach me half the gladness that thy brain must know. Such harmonious madness from my lips would flow. The world should listen then, as I am listening now. And so what is he saying? He's still imploring the skylark to teach him half that happiness. Right? And only if the skylark was able to teach him that happiness, he would be able to write poetry and express that happiness to people and have people listen to it, just in the same manner that he's listening to the skylark. However, and unfortunately, he can't learn that happiness. He can't learn to express that unmeasurable happiness because he's aware of the limitations of human life. He's aware of that. He's aware of it. And so, you tell me, while I was reading, was there, before that, what is the tone at the end? Is it actually joyful tone? Is it sad? Is it kind of like, does the tone leave you contemplating? Does it leave you kind of feeling discouraged, feeling negative? What does it do? Tell me, what tone does the poem? It's a happy ending? When the poet says, basically, this is what the poet says. He says that the skylark is able to express unmeasurable happiness, unmeasurable joy, unmeasurable love. Human beings are able to express love, happiness, and joy. However, it's limited because human beings are aware of suffering, pain, and they're mortal and aware that they will die. So their happiness and joy is not at all ever, or isn't ever gonna measure up to the happiness of the other. And so, is this kind of hopeful, happy? It's actually, well, it's a sad tone, I think. It's more of a, it's not that it's depressing, but it's heavy, it's sad. I would say it ends with kind of a sad tone. No? Yeah, if you continue the biography, and I told you that this was the incident, it was based on an incident 2 days before the death of his daughter, can you kind of see that, where he's kind of haunted by that thought of death, and how death is limiting to happiness? It kind of reflects in the poem, right? Anyhow, so, there's this poem was actually as that air poet, disconnected, kind of. Yes, in terms of, not yet. Basically, there's no political kind of message there. It doesn't show us the radical Shelley, but it does show us the Shelley who gets basically inspired by a skylark. It shows us that an element of nature, yes, inspires the poet and inspires his poetic genius, imagination. But then, basically, there is some kind of biographical influence. There is that influence where he kind of is aware of death and the highlights of the issue of death. And maybe it's because of him receiving the news of the death of his daughter. And it's kind of there, right? Okay, and so stay on the same page, and look at the one that follows. Page 201, we're now going to address the second poem. And the second poem actually is Ode to the West Wind. Right? Before that, the first poem was an ode to, but you don't have it in the title. You don't have the word ode in the title. I told you guys what an ode is, right? I told you an ode is a poem in which the poet directly addresses an object or a person. Now remember this poem. Who is he addressing? The skylark. It's a bird. And now in a second, a very different type of ode. This is kind of an ode that has a line scheme. When I read, did you guys notice the music to the words? When I was reading, yeah. So there is a rhyme scheme. Actually, look at these stanzas. I'm sorry, before we go to the next poem. The stanzas, the rhyme scheme is an A, B, A, B, B. And all the stanzas are the same. A, B, A, B, B. Okay? Now we're going to look at the second poem, Ode to the West Wind. And so here there is the poet addressing object in this case, and it is the West Wind. And what is the West Wind here then? West Wind? الرياح الغربية, right? And so, thinking geographically, we have Europe here. What would be West Europe? Or what would be actually where, West Europe. Actually, the Americas. Okay? And what separates America from Europe? It's an ocean. Which ocean? The Atlantic Ocean. And you're going to find the Atlantic Ocean kind of over here. Okay? So there's something that West Wind is carrying, or supposed to carry. The West Wind actually has, there's something behind this West Wind, and now we're going to realize what that is. Anyhow, before we read the poem, and just as I said, this is also, just like the first poem, basically this is a poem that was published in the book of poetry that Mary Shelley edited. And so what is the biography, or what is it based on? It's based on basically a walk Shelley had with his wife. Okay? And with Mary Shelley. And it's not summer over here, it's autumn. Okay? So they're having a walk in the woods. It's Florida. It's not Cuba. It's Florida. And so basically, while they're having a walk, basically there's a breeze of wind that comes. And now since it's autumn, and he's walking, and he's just happening in the woods, there's a lot of what? Leaves on the floor, on the ground, not the floor. Okay? And so the breeze comes and blows the leaves. And basically it kind of makes them move and bend, But then actually she says that the wind gains more force and becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, and then suddenly a thunderstorm happens, and then there's like very violent rain, and so the scene moves from being just like a very breezy wind, nice, that thing, which is enjoyable for them. It actually kind of like looks like it grows into power and becomes chaotic to the extent that it seems like it's destructive. And so you're going to have that also element in the poem. So the poem is based on that incident, and Shelley writes a poem about the West Wind. Now, look at the form. Before we look at content, the form, just like we did in the first poem. What do you notice about the form? We have a number here, 1, and then we have how many lines? We have 3 lines, in each kind of like part, and then in number 1, under number 1, how many lines do we have? 14. Yeah, it's 14 lines. They come in groups of 3, but there are 14 lines in the first, group. And then we have 2, and we have 3, and we have 4, and we have 5, right? And each consists of those 14 lines. Same thing. So these actually parts are called cantos. A canto. C-A-N-T-O. What is a canto? In this case, a stanza of 14 lines. Okay? And notice that the lines are like in 3 lines, compacted in 3 lines each, right? And then the last part is 2 lines. Okay? So we have 5 cantos, and in this case, basically, Shelley, is there a rhyme scheme for this? It says an ADA. Once I read, you're going to figure this. Being dead, swinging, thread thou dead, roll until blow. See? So it's like an ADA, and so on and so forth. You go like that with all the lines, okay? So there is a rhyme scheme. And, okay, so 5 cantos, what I'm going to do is that, we can't read the whole poem, it's long. We're going to look at the first canto, and then I'll tell you, basically, or you tell me if you prepared the poem, about the following cantos, and then we'll read together the last canto, because the last canto is like major poem, and major for our discussion. So I'll read the first canto, and then describe the poem to you guys, and then we'll look at the last canto, okay? All on the same page? 201? Okay? Okay. Oh, wild west wind, thou breath of autumn sing, thou from whose unseen presence the leaves dead are driven, like ghosts from an enchantress wing. Yellow and black and pale and hectic red, pestilence striking multitudes, oh, thou mysterious to their dark wintry bed, the winged seas where they lie cold and low, each like a corpus within its grave until thine azure picture of the spring shall blow. Her clarion over the greening earth and spells driving sweet buds like flocks to feed the air, with living hues and arborists, plain and hell, wild spirits which are moving everywhere, destroyer and preserver. Here, oh here. And so, what do you get from the first stanza? What is it talking about? We know that the poet is addressing the West Wind, right? Because this is an ode. An ode is a direct address to the West Wind. And how is he addressing the West Wind? What is he describing as the West Wind? How is he describing the West Wind? What does he want to use? It's wild. Yes, he says, oh, wild west wind, WWW. Now in terms of reading poetry, literary technique, what is this? Alliteration, exactly. And so he's addressing the west wind using alliteration in order to focus on how powerful this wind is, right? It's west and it's wild wind, okay? Thou breath of autumn seen from thou, and so what does it say? It's addressing the west, the effect of the west wind. What does it do? What does the west wind do? I kind of described, initially when I described the biography, I told you kind of what it does. It's hey, that the west wind has an ability, because it's autumn, to move the leaves. And it's actually, there's a description of the leaves. The yellow and black and pale and hectic red, in different multitudes. So the west wind actually is able to move these leaves off the floor in the season, in the autumn season, right? And even take away the seeds and spring and take them, move them away with them. And what else? So basically it's talking about the effects of the wind on earth. That's the first canto. He's describing how this wind affects earth, moves the leaves and kind of, animates, objects in the universe. And then he says at the end, wild spirits which are moving everywhere. The wind is not only just that very smooth wind, it grows in terms of force. Just let's give what I told you guys. It starts very smooth and simple and nice and moving the leaves, and then it grows in strength and becomes more wild. And then he says, destroyer and preserver. What is that? That's the description of the wind. The wind could be destroyer and it could be preserver. It grows in violently and intensity can destroy. Remember, like for example, the rain that we had the other day, and there was a lot of wind. Actually, when I went out the next day, basically the palm trees were on the ground. And so the idea is that the wind can be a destroyer if it grows in force. And this is actually the effect of the wind on earth. It could be smooth and breezy and light. Could be just like a preserver, But this is a reference also to Indian mythology. But also it could destroy once it grows in force. And so this first canto basically addresses and describes the wind's effects on earth. And see? Now we go to canto 2 and canto 3. I'm not going to look at them in detail, but in canto 2, same thing. The stanza describes the effects of the wind, but not on earth, on air in canto 2. And in canto 3, the poet describes the effects of the wind on the ocean. Okay, so we have 3 cantos where in the first 3 cantos the poet describes the quality of the wind and the effects of it. In the first canto on the earth, and we read it thoroughly, and in the second canto the effects of it on the air, and it's the same kind of the wind that starts very smooth and light and then grows in force. And then in the third canto it describes the quality and the effects of the wind upon the ocean. But then if you look at that canto, which ocean is mentioned? Exactly. You look at line 37, for whose have Atlantic level towers that cleave themselves into caissons, while far below the sea blossoms and the oozy woods which wear the sap-like foliage of the ocean, know thy voice and suddenly grow gray with fear and tremble and despoil themselves. Oh dear. He wants the wind freer. Did you notice you see this, the first canto and the second canto, and even in the third canto he does actually end this with, oh here, oh here. Because he's addressing the west wind, not only talking about its qualities and its effects on the air and on the ocean, actually he's addressing the wind to hear and listen to him. And that's what we're going to get to in the fourth canto and the fifth canto. So here is answered, where the poet directly communicates and speaks to the wind in fourth and five. But yes, it's not anything that he mentions the Atlantic Ocean, because basically this wind is blowing from the Atlantic through America, through the Atlantic Ocean to Europe. So there's something that's happening in America where the west wind is carrying, towards Europe. And we will get that basically when we read the last canto. Okay? So we're going to move actually to canto 4, talk about canto 4, but then we're going to basically look at Canto 5 in terms of line-by-line detailed analysis. Okay, so we move from Canto 1, 2, 3, where the wind is addressed, the quality of the wind is highlighted, the wind is the poet is addressing the wind and talking about its effects on earth, air, and ocean. Now for what is it? 4 and 5 do the same thing. Almost. Not the same thing, it's almost close to the same thing. Okay, the wind moves, carries stuff. In Canto 4, the poet addresses and communicates directly with the wind and asks the wind to carry him, just like it carries objects in nature. The clouds, the leaves, the clouds, not the clouds, the leaves, the clouds, and it moves it, and the waves, and does all that, right? Because it moves the clouds, it moves the leaves, it moves the waves. So he's asking the wind and imploring the wind to carry him, just like it carries other objects. Take him along with him in his wanderings. Because think about it. Shelley at this moment, I told you, is living in exile. Where's his home? Where's his home? England. So he's asking the west wind to carry him maybe home. He went over, at least he's saying to the west wind, carry me and make me wander with you. Carry me away from where I am now. And so at least it looks like he's not satisfied with carrying it, and he wants to be carried somewhere else. This poem is written in 1819. Now we'll talk about that in a little bit. And let's look at basically the last canto in detail. Because see, Canto 4 is where the poet addresses directly the wind and implores the wind to carry him just like it carries other objects and take him in his wandering. And this is a reference kind of to his exilic situation. And so look at 5. Make me thy near, even as the forest is. What if my leaves are fair, our calling like its own? The conflict of thy mighty harmonies will take me from both the deep autumnal tone. Sweet though in sadness, be thou, spirit, my spirit, be thou me, impetuous one. Drive my dead thoughts over the universe, like withered leaves that to quicken a new birth. And by the incantations of this birth, scatter as from an unextinguished heart ashes and sparks my words among mankind. Be thou my lips, be through my lips to awaken earth as the trumpet of a prophecy. Oh wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? And so in this canto, what is he doing? I read it to you. He's asking the wind and imploring you to do what? To separate? Well, yeah, but he's asking the wind to do something. He's telling the wind to carry his word, his verse. Set it and scatter it. Yes, you're right. He's using that metaphor where he's, from the fact he's comparing himself to a tree in autumn when its leaves are fall down and the wind carries those leaves. So he's comparing himself to a tree that has words and messages. He composes poetry and wants the earth wind to carry his words, carry his verses, carry his messages, spread them, scatter them upon the universe to initiate a new birth. Under new birth. New birth. What is new birth? He has a very serious heart, his undistinguished heart. He's charged. He has something to say. And he wants his words not to be just but stay in their place. The wind, if it carries the message, carries his words, they would actually initiate that new birth. And what is that new birth? Spring. Yes, you say that, well, my words would cause a new birth. And what is that new birth? It's actually a reference to a revolution. He wants his words to go to the people, and when they reach the people, here he says actually, be through my lips to unawakened earth, the trumpet of a prophecy. Oh, when this winter comes, can spring be far behind? In this case, he's asking the winds to take his thoughts and spread his ideas all over the world, to awaken the youth and awaken people with his ideas. And his ideas are supposed, and message is supposed to cause a new birth, supposed to cause that revolution. So he's targeting people. The trumpet of a prophecy, he's targeting people to actually initiate a revolution. Okay? And so, is this an optimistic tone, or, and then when he says basically if winter comes, can spring be far behind? So the idea is that, yes, there's autumn, after autumn there's winter, this is seasonal, and then there's spring, that definitely will come. And so he sees that new birth, with spring, new flowers, sprout and new leaves, adorn, the trees. Same thing with his words and messages. If they spread upon the universe, they will charge the people, and they will cause a revolution and change the situation. And that situation would be the new. Yes, it's actually, he's talking about the winds of change. Now, in America, basically revolutions were taking place, and that's why he's saying that he wants the Western to come and effect revolution in Europe, basically in London. Now, this is the year 1819. Stay on the page. 1819. What's happening in England in 1819? There's an economic recession. What's an economic recession? ركود اقتصادي, right? So what happens when there's an economic recession? What happens to people? The people. Yes. People are plunged into poverty. That's what's happening. People are very poor, plunged into poverty. Especially the working class, the working class, right? They're the ones who get affected by that economic recession. And so, people are not happy, people are not satisfied because of their economic situation. They're plunged into poverty, and so, what do the people do? They're angry at their situation. They go out to kind of protest. Right? And yes, actually, I'll tell you guys. In England, 1819, what was happening? England was governed by George III. This is a little bit of historical details, because now the poem that we're going to look at is actually a political poem, and it's addressing the time period. So, England was governed by the King George III. King George III in 1810 was pronounced what? Mad, insane, crazy. He was a crazy king. Yeah, but he was nominally in charge. Who was in charge of his case? The princes, his children, his sons. They were the ones who are in charge of the country. Okay, and basically they were people who were actually abusing the resources of the country. They were basically taking everything to their own advantage, and they were not aware actually of what was happening with the people. And those kind of rulers that are kind of disconnected from the reality of the people, that's what they were. And not only that, they were actually abusing their country's resources and to their own benefit, and totally not even aware of what's happening to the people. Or not aware, they just are not concerned. And so, what happens is that the people, I told you that year there's an economic recession, and so people are plunging into poverty, so angry, so they go out to protest. Where do they go out to protest? It's actually a square called, or a field called Peterloo Field in Manchester. Okay? They go out, they protest. What happens? The government unleashes the army on them. What does the army do? Yes, the army massacred actually the people protesting. It's slaughtered. And there's some sources say that there was 18 who died, some say 12, some say 21. The idea is that it was a massacre, where the army slaughtered the people in the field for protesting. They wanted just to have something, to relevant to their lives. And so basically, Shelley writes this poem, England 1819, now look at the, page 205, actually as a reaction to this incident. Okay? So it's done. Now you're going to notice it. Almost everything I said is there. It's a very direct way. But this is not the nose, it's a sonnet. And so what is a sonnet? Who's famous for sonnets? Shakespeare, William Shakespeare, do you know him? Yeah, he took Othello, right? He didn't take any of his poetry or sonnets, but William Shakespeare is famous for writing sonnets. What are sonnets? Sonnets are poetry all 14 lines. The way you look at it is the first part of the poem, which is the first 8 lines, is usually called an octet or an octave. Okay? They present a problem. They pose a problem. They address an issue in the first 8 lines. The next 6 lines are called assisted. And in the assisted, actually you have what? Kind of like a turning point in the poem. And after the turning point, you have the last 2 lines of that assisted, you have a solution or resolution to the text. And usually the last 2 lines are called what? Couplets. They, in traditional sonnets, they should be rhymes. They should rhyme. And so look at ours. Let's just look at the sun. They rhyme. So in this couplet, it's a rhyme couplet where actually there's a solution or a resolution to the problem that, being posed. So you got it? Sonnet is 14 lines. The first 8 lines pose an issue, a problem, and discuss it. The next 6 lines actually present a turning point in the poem. And then basically the last 2 lines of that actually provide us with a solution or resolution. I'm going to read the poem, and then we'll just discuss it quickly. An old man. An old man, blind, despised, and dying king. Princes, the threads of their dull race, who flow through public scorn mud from a muddy spring. Rulers who neither see nor feel nor know, but leash-like to their fainting country cling till they dwell, blind and blood without a blow. A people starved and stabbed in the untilted fields, an army whose liver ties are free, linked as a two-edged sword for all who wield. Golden and stay-hewn, laws with tempt and slay, religion priceless, godless a book sealed, a set time's worth statue unrevealed, our great and riches, glorious friends from neighbors, to illuminate our country's road. And so do you see any of what I said in the poem? Old, mad, blind, despised, and dying king. Yeah, did I tell you that this time it basically is King George III was ruling. He was pronounced mad. He was old. His sons, the princes in the next line, are the ones who are taking charge of the country. What are they doing basically? They're leech lives. That's a simile. What is a leech? What is a leech? You know that insect that sticks on the skin and sucks the blood? So what is the word? I don't know that word. Yes, it's not just it sucks and goes. It sticks on the skin. Maybe you have that word. You guys know it? It's like alaqa. Okay, yeah, anything that sticks on the skin and sucks the blood. That's actually the way our poet is actually describing the prince and the whole royal family and monarchy. So the poem starts with actually the poet criticizing the institution over the monarchy. Right? He's criticizing the king and he's saying the king is despised. What does that mean? People don't like him. And then he says that the princes actually are leech-like, which means they're sucking the resources of the country. See how they're abusing the country? And he says that basically they're part of the dull race. They're not in favor of the people, and they go through public scorn. Public scorn. And not just that, people are publicly scorning them. So the first part actually here, the first couple of lines, is a criticism of the monarchy and that institution. What is the second institution being criticized? Look, a people starved and stabbed in the untilted fields. These are the people who were massacred in Peterloo. But I just told you guys, this is how he's reacting to the massacre. What's the second institution that's being criticized? The army! Exactly! This is the second institution being criticized. The army who killed and massacred the people. The army is supposed to protect the people instead of massacring and killing them. 3, clothing also criticized. Look, religion, scientists, godless, and steal. He's criticizing also the church institution at the moment. He's saying godless, book steal. He's saying that the church is not following at the moment the true teachings of the religion. It is Christless, book steal. Now that Christ in Christianity is supposed to be a symbol of love, a symbol of sacrifice for the people. So the church should be in help for the people. But rather it's complicit with the abuses of people. Because the people are, the church is not following the true teaching. And when the fourth institution being criticized, the line that follows, it's finished. Times worth statutes. The parliament, the Senate. Who are the Senate? Aren't they the people who are supposed to represent the people? Aren't they the ones who are elected to represent the people, talk for the people, bring the people's issues and ideas, to the government? And they think that they're like a statue. They twin. They don't do anything. They're actually complicit with the murder of the people. And so this whole poem is an attack on the monarchy, attack on the army, on the church institution, and on the Senate and the parliament. And he's saying that all of them are complicit in the murder of the people. But now, see, this is kind of depressing. But then, what does the last 2 lines do? He says that all these are basically graves from which a glorious phantom may burst to illuminate tempestuous day. So yes, we're going through a dark day, and it's hard for the people. However, he says that all of this may culminate eventually into having that glorious phantom. Phantom is like a ghost, but it's glorious and it bursts. And so all my days will cause what? Change to come. And then it illumines the day, which means brightens the day. It will give light. So there's a hopeful message at the end. And this hopeful message is like the new birth in the previous poem. Right? It says that, allow my words to spread and the message to spread to give new birth. So this is a call for a revolution, and that basically the fortune of the people will change. Change will come. It's the spring. Right? So there is a spring here. So it's a hopeful kind of ending. And now, in the last almost 10 minutes or 7 minutes we have, because we're not looking at the Masks of Anarchy in full. Actually, if you think about it, now we're going to look at like a couple of lines of the last poem. The last poem, you don't have to look at it and even your book doesn't have it in full. Just those lines. It kind of addresses the same incident, the Peterloo massacre. Now you'll listen to the line and tell me, because this poem is written also in 1819 and it's a reaction to the massacre that happened, and it's actually giving the same message. He's calling for revolution to happen. Okay? Let's all go to page 52. I'm going to read the selection. But you have to know that the Masks of Anarchy comes in turn, it's not an oath, it's not a sonnet, it's actually a broadsheet ballad. That actually was written in 1819. What is a broadsheet ballad? It's actually a poem that was printed on a paper and distributed to people. Well, that is revolutionary. Think about it. And what I told you from the beginning of the class was Shelley published? Was he allowed to be published? I told you he's not. His works were suppressed. The government actually not just wanted would actually persecute him. They actually persecuted a person who published his poem. Remember William Clarkson? So nobody was allowed to read, nor publish, nor circulate any of his poems. However, so this poem actually circulates as a broadsheet ballad. It's actually printed on a piece of paper and distributed among the radicals. And that's how it actually is. Basically, it spreads into time. It's circulating. And so now, the Masks of Anarchy is written here in 1819. See that introduction here? It's the same as what the historical details that I've already given you. Okay? So I'm just going to read the segments that the book provides you with. And so so straightforward, so direct, that I can see how it's dangerous during the time period for the government. And they would never want it to actually circulate. So I'll read it in detail with subject matter. And at least when ye complain with a murmur we convey, it is to see the tyrant crew ride over your wives and you, blood is on the grass like dew. And that slaughter to the nation shall seem up like inspiration, eloquent, oracular, a volcano heard after. Rise like lions after slumber in an unvanquishable number. Shake your chains to earth like dew, which in sleep has fallen on you. You are many, they are few. So is he addressing the West Wind? The skyline? He's addressing the people. And what is he telling them? He's saying when you complain, if you think about it, look at the first line, this is so dire. And actually, when ye complain with the murmur we convey, it is to see the tyrant's crew ride over your wife and you, and blood is on the grass like you. He's saying that people, if they are not vocal and protest in a strong manner, the tyrant will still be powerful, and the consequence would be what? When, they just criticize but not be strong and vocal. He's saying that basically blood is on the grass like you. Still the tyrant will overpower you, and like a massacre will happen just like the one that took place. Blood. Blood is on the grass like you. This is a reference to the blood of the massacre of Peter. And then he says, and so they will continue to fire the nation if you don't become vocal. And not just protest, but rather go out on a revolution. He says, rise like lions after slumber. So he describes the previous situation as the people in slumber. They don't criticize, they're not vocal, they're not strong in, criticizing the government and going against what the government, the abuses of the government. And so he's saying, rise like lions after slumber. So get up, rise, protest, and be vocal and strong about your message. You will. A spring will happen. A new birth will happen. But how? Why? Because he says, you are many, they are few. So he says that definitely a revolution would succeed. Because you guys are many, much more than this. But just be vocal, stand together, and strive. Protest, go against, and actually stir cause of revolution. So see his messages? Who would no government would allow this to go. To be published personally. And so, this is the radical. This is the vocal, radical, anti-establishment. And so you guys get how his wife would have never been able to publish if she had these words. This one in the 1819 in fact, books that she published of his selected poems. And so, next time we'll continue with Shelley. We'll look at Mount Blanc, we'll look at a poem called Ozymandias, and another one. And basically we're going to look at like the historical elements of his poetry. So we looked at basically how some elements of the natural cosmos universe can basically affect his poetic genius, his imagination, and spirit, basically. And then we looked at basically the radical political Shelley. And now next we'll be looking at basically the Shelley that expresses historical elements in his poetry. It's still kind of radical, still kind of commenting on history, and because he's making a point in how to make history in his contemporary time. Okay? And so, thank you very much. I enjoy Shelley. I just love teaching. And which by the way, which character do you like more? Do you like the airy air type of Shelley or the radical Shelley? None of them. Well, at least for the course, you should